Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question from Michael Sanderson, a shareholder from Katamatite.
That's the metropolis of Katamatite. First thing I'd like to do is correct my colleague and friend, Craig Caulfield. We haven't got 14,000 members. The BRN movement has 15,612 last count, and I'm quite sure the Warrior count would take it well over 16,000 and growing. My question relates to the domestic macroeconomy and its impacts on the bank's profit going forward. National private debt currently exceeds 120% of GDP, the second highest in the OECD, meaning the economy has little capacity to take on additional credit. The mid-year economic and fiscal outlook released yesterday shows no economic positives. We have an economy that is tanking, a housing market that has been inflated to the point of collapse. The federal government, both franchises, use the misery of unemployment via NAIRU. And for those who don't know, that means a non-accelerating inflation rate of unemployment as an economic buffer stock. The federal government could use NAIBER, which is a non-accelerating inflation buffer employment ratio, as a buffer stock. NAIBER would enable a voluntary, locally administrated job guarantee that pays a living income which could employ approximately 2 million unemployed and underemployed, boosting the private sector, breathing life into dying communities, addressing poverty, build skills, improve work ethics, recession-proof the Australian economy, and so much more. A job guarantee would also act as a counter-cyclic, bottom-up fiscal stabiliser. My questions are, from the perspective of the bank profit, if the ANZ had to choose between NAIRU and NAIBER, which would it choose and why? And my second question is, who from the board is attending the Sustainable Prosperity Conference in Adelaide from the 10th to the 12th of January to meet Stephanie Kelton, the financial advisor to the next president of the US, Bernie Sanders?
Well, can I take the second question first, and then I'll ask the CEO to do the first question. Firstly, can I say I compliment you on thinking broadly on how the economy can be dealt with and so on. I'm not totally enticed by the fact that I really want to meet the advisor to Mr. Sanders, so I won't go through the board and ask them if they're going to be there. But I do understand your thinking, and if I may, I'll just ask the CEO on the question of NAIBERs and NAIRUs.
Right. Actually, I'm probably not the best person to answer that one either. So I think it's a question for our economists, and what I would tell you, though, is we don't really subscribe to any single economic theory. We look at a range of indicators. That's our job, is to make sure that we're assessing all sorts of risks and challenges in the economy, and we look at a wide range of indicators, including debt levels and some of the things that you mentioned about, and some of the challenges that you mentioned in your opening remarks we would agree with, but that's our job to navigate the bank through that, and that's why in my talk I mentioned a number of times about the need, in our view, to strengthen the balance sheet for the benefit of shareholders and to make the bank safer. But I don't know that I can reduce it down to one economic indicator. I'm happy to take that offline with you and introduce you to our economists if you want to have a discussion with them.
Is there anybody else on the board? You're all paid a lot of money, and I'm a dumb cocky.
Can I firstly say, you're not dumb. That is obvious.
You haven't spent much time with me.
But can I also say, we as a bank are committed to looking at the economy, to seeking to help the economy to do well, because obviously if it does well, so do we. But on the question of which we prefer, I'd have to say, as I think the CEO has, often we, seek to talk to government and so on, but government make those decisions and we work within them. And I think that's really the way we should look at this. But thank you, and unless you had a second part, I might move if I may.
No, I have some other questions, but they can wait till later.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.